A leader has to take the risks. Miami. So how'd you get to Miami?
Miami. So that is a long story that involves a lot of things, but essentially, I moved here for work, and we'll go into the specifics eventually. But moved here for work from New York, LA before that, and so been around the country in a lot of places, but very excited to talk to you guys through it.
So as far as like, because I was kind of curious because you had something to do with the Shark Tank, is that right? You were on the Shark Tank. So
yeah, absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about what was that all about?
Sure. So I was on Shark Tank for my startup called WaiveCar. And WaiveCar was the world's first all-electric and free car sharing program. So we launched it in Santa Monica, and it was kind of like Zipcar or Car2Go, or almost like a bird scooter program. But instead of having scooters, we had electric vehicles that you could rent for free. And it was free because the cars served as advertising billboards. So we wrapped the cars, we had digital displays on the rooftop. It's funny, we did an interview with a very small paper, the Santa Monica Daily Press, when we first launched. And this guy emailed us and he says, hey, I read about you in the Santa Monica Daily Press. Are you guys looking for funding? I work with Shark Tank. And it was from a Gmail address. So we actually thought it was like complete spam. So I Googled the guy's name. Turns out he's the executive producer. So that's what got us on the path. But it was a really, really cool adventure. So that company, WaiveCar, we started out in January 2016. We filmed with Shark Tank. We did a deal with Hyundai, which was amazing. We grew our fleet from 20 vehicles to over 250 vehicles. And it was just meteoric rise. And then the pandemic kind of like stopped everything.
So
fast forward,
real quick though. I mean, so no Shark Tank, no, because I just so you know, I mean, I love the Shark Tank, man. I mean, I probably watched every episode of the Shark Tank. Like, it's just, I love business and I love learning how they think about things. But nobody jumped on board with you though from the Shark Tank.
No, we did. We did a deal with Mr. Wonderful, which was a great deal. Yeah, we did. We only gave away 2% of our company, which was amazing. And so, when people ask, was it worth it? I said, just the sheer exposure alone is more than worth it. I mean, besides for being on prime time television, at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night on ABC. Besides for that, you are then airing on CNBC like every couple of weeks. So every time we air, my phone starts blowing up. I get a bunch of followers, a bunch of LinkedIn requests, and it's just like in perpetuity, you have this like ongoing piece of content that just kind of like works for you and your company and your brand.
Yeah, for free. I mean, it's like constant free advertising, basically.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
That's badass. And so, okay, so what was the experience though to work with Mr. Wonderful? I mean, he only owns 2% of the company, but does he provide support in any way at all, or?
So it really depends on the company and the type of value they bring. Obviously, different sharks bring different strengths. For the most part, the way to sum it up is they can open doors for you and connections. If you are trying, if we're trying to get an ad campaign, with some company, and we can't get in, we can call them up and say, hey, Kevin, can you, call them up? And usually they'll answer his call. So that's really the biggest value, is just having the name. Also being able to say, we're a Shark Tank company, Kevin O'Leary's an advisor, blah, blah, blah. That helps a lot as well. So I would say it's different if you're working with someone like a Lori Grenier, who just has, these connections with retailers and can like actually affect your business. But because we were more of like an infrastructure, SaaS and like a couple different business lines, it wasn't like something really tangible that we could say, all right, we could put you in this store or we can get you this branding deal. It was more strategic help, and of course PR as well. When we had something to announce, we send it to him. He has a huge following. That's tremendously helpful as well.
Beautiful. And so what was the aftermath? So what happened after that? You said it really started to grow. and then the pandemic, and then the deal.
Yeah.
The deal. What happened? And how scary was that, by the way? And what happened and how scared were you, man?
It was very scary. You know, we raised a lot of money. We had a lot of things going for us. And, you know, the two things that just stopped was like the whole LA shut down, right? So we weren't in like a market that was like still sort of going, like nobody went anywhere. So nobody's renting cars. Nobody is going anywhere. You know, we had a program that we would rent cars to Uber and Lyft drivers. Nobody was driving rideshare. You know, and advertising, all advertising money was basically pulled. You guys are out of home and nobody's out of their home. So like our business just like that went up in smoke. That being said, we had a lot of really great people. We had a lot of great technology we developed. And so I gotta admit that was probably, you know, one of the really toughest times for me. You know, like what do I do? How do we move on? And how do we like make sense of all this? You know, but if you fast forward a little bit, and the reason I'm in Miami right now is we're actually able to sell our company in that time and, you know, maintain upside and our assets and our, most importantly, our team. And we sold to a company down here called REEF Technology. And REEF Technology is a SoftBank-backed company that I can tell you all about, but that's what brought me here to Miami. And at the end of the day, you know, it's impossible to connect the dots looking forwards, only looking backwards. And so, you know, we had all these things kind of happen for a reason, you know, and who knows what the future holds, but so far, you know, things have a way of working themselves out.
So the exit is pretty good. I mean, is it more than you thought? Was it as much as you thought, or how did the numbers
it's play
an exit
out? And I'm happy. It's an exit, and I'm very happy about that. This isn't my first exit. This is my my third startup with an exit. So I can walk you through all those. But you know, at the end of the day, an exit is a good thing for all parties involved. You know, it doesn't have to be a slam dunk to be a good result. And like I said, there's more than just the actual dollars and cents of what happens with the exit, but more, you know, what opportunities does it create? How is the experience? And you know, what do you learn from it, and how can you involve that in, you know, the rest of your business dealings?
And so what would you say, I mean, especially being through two other exits before this one, what did this experience teach you that maybe you could pass on as wisdom?
I would say, so we actually had spoken to this company for a long time, and it really took us a while, you know, and we probably went through 3 rounds of them trying to acquire us. You know, the first one, we probably wanted too much. The second round, you know, I don't remember the problem. And the third round was like, we finally came to terms. But you know, the most important part is like, keep trying, because if something makes sense to you in your gut, which this deal did, just there were so many synergies between our companies and what they were trying to do and what we had accomplished already. You know, just because you get that no the first time doesn't mean it's over. And it's okay to be a little annoying, because typically the person in charge on the other side will value your persistence and say, man, if this guy is so persistent about this, imagine what he's going to be like working for me. He's just not going to take no for an answer. He's just going to get it done no matter what. So if someone puts up, you know, that temporary barrier, someone say, no, it's not going to happen, unless it's like, don't ever call me again, or I'm calling the cops and I'm filing a restraining order. Right. Keep trying, because there's a version that it can
aside from the going to the, you know, calling the cops, then, you know, you got to be persistent. Exactly. I tell all my agents, like, look, man, I mean, you know, it usually takes 5 objections to overcome, you know, when you're selling, usually takes about 5 objections, but guess where we all stop? Like 3 or 4. You know, we feel like we're being too persistent at 3 or 4 when we should have kept going. And so, okay, go ahead, continue.
For sure. So yeah, it's been really interesting. We've been you know, we've launched the product internally now. It's called REEF Drive. We switched it a little bit. It's not advertising based. You know, we're working with third-party fleets. You know, you're able to rent cars from the network of parking lots that this company operates. So we were a car sharing company. They're the largest parking operator in North America, and they put different use cases on those parking lots. So really synergistic. And, the team has kind of split up. Some still working on the original project. I'm working on some other things, other people are working on others as well. And it all sort of, works out. But I'm happy that, our technology and everything sort of found a good home, and want to make sure that, we continue building, our skills and our contacts and our connections. And that's really the most important thing.
All right, I want to switch gears a little bit, because I want to get to know Zoli. Am I saying that right, by the way? Just want to make sure
yes.
I'm respectful to you, but I like to get to I want to get to know you a little bit, as far as like where you came from. What was your childhood like? What was your upbringing like? Were you rich? Were you poor? What'd your parents do?
Sure. Yeah. So I was born in New York, in Brooklyn. Most of my childhood in Long Island. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. So I would say that from a young age, my parents had 4 kids in 5 years. They needed a TV. They didn't have one, but whatever. They had a TV. So I guess I was always sort of in that leadership role as just like the oldest brother. By the time I was 5 years old, I had 3 younger siblings. And so always sort of been this like natural born leader. You got to, kind of make your own way. And so my parents, my mom was in the corporate world for a while, and my dad has been in the real estate world. He's been independent since he's 16 years old. His father died when he was 16, and he was basically on his own. And he started his first real estate deal he did at 19. So he's always been, a hustler, going out and getting it. And my mom really transitioned into, the entrepreneurial world herself. When eBay was starting to blow up, she left her corporate job and started a designer consignment shop, right? Sort of like the Real, but, on a smaller scale. And so I had, 2 parents that were basically doing things on their own. They weren't company people. They were just building their own destiny. So as a kid, I always was, looking at them and seeing like, all right, how can I create, my own value? Whether it was, in elementary school, going to the grocery store, buying cans of soda and reselling them for 75 cents a pop, making, a 200% markup. Or, the IT business that I started in high school. And so a funny thing is actually how things come full circle. So I just had a knack for computers, and technology. I love just like pressing buttons, see what everything did. As a kid, I would break a lot of things, but then eventually I learned how to fix them as well. And so I became like the neighborhood IT kid, that everyone called when they needed help with their IT. And funny enough, one of my clients is actually now a board member of our company. So when I first came, that was my connection. I fixed his computers when I was 15 years old. So it's funny how that works. But yeah, always had the knack for tech.
Coming full circle, I guess, right? And what I'm hearing from you too is that you had parents that were motivated people. Your mom was motivated, your dad was motivated, and created a motivated kid. And that's probably why you became so motivated. Now, how not to throw any of your brothers and sisters under the bus, but is any of them out, like any other brothers and sisters, entrepreneurs as well, or are they all?
I think they all have the knack for it. Okay. So I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My first sister is a doctor, so she didn't go the entrepreneurial route. My other sister, she actually
but motivated, but motivated, obviously, to become a doctor. Okay, so she's of course, check on that one.
Then my other sister, she actually did start a business. She had a beautiful cake decorating business. She has like 25,000 followers on Instagram. She was fully booked out. And then she had a whole bunch of kids. She had 3 kids, and she is now having her 4th now. So she took a break from that whole thing, but she does have that passion inside her to keep like building something, and she wants to. I think she just needs to get a handle on family first, but she's definitely entrepreneurial. My brother, he definitely has the entrepreneurial spirit, but chose the more corporate route. He, was at Goldman Sachs. He was at Silverstein Properties, CIM Group. And actually now, finally, after doing all that, he is independent. So he has his own real estate fund that he started with my brother-in-law. And it's funny how we're actually talking about doing deals between my company and their real estate fund now. So, with their parking lots and things like that. So really everything comes full circle, and it's really interesting. My youngest brother, he's still in college, so he's getting there, but he's going probably more the entrepreneurial route because he's learning coding and development, and he loves building stuff. He loves VR and the metaverse and all that. So I'm sure he'll be on the entrepreneurial side real soon as well.
What do you? I'm curious. Well, well, first of all, that's a testament to your parents, man. Wow, what a bunch of successful kids they have helped to create. I mean, that's badass. I mean, you have the, you definitely have the entrepreneurial gene, but the truth is, I mean, you had to go do it, I mean, yes. You got the information, but your parents were like, now it's, you got to go do it, so.
It's actually funny. I had to sell them for a very long time. I dropped out of college, right, to start my first company, which was a frozen yogurt store before, when Pinkberry was still a big thing. And my mom probably harassed me for 6-7 years. Just finish college. What are you doing? Listen, your brother was valedictorian. What are you doing? Why just finish college? You have a year and a half left. Just do it. When she stopped asking me, not when I sold my first company and made like a nice amount of money. She still was bugging me after that. I'm like, Ma, I just did this thing. When I aired on Shark Tank, and all her friends were like, wow, he was on Shark Tank. I'm like, really?
That was it.
Really,
that
Mom?
was it. Finally.
That's it.
All you had to do is go on
meaningless.
TV. Exactly.
That's it.
That's wild. But no, I relate a lot to what you're saying because, I'm that kid that I went to college for a little while and then I went into financial services and the rest is history. But it's amazing how this perception, and I think it's slowly starting to wane, this thought that college, that everybody needs college. I mean, and I was even going to ask you about your brother, your little brother, because he's going to college to learn all this stuff that is going to be irrelevant, by the way. By the time he gets out of college, most of it's going to be irrelevant because you, as well as I know, technology moves at such a fast rate. I don't know, I'm not trying to give advice, but maybe is he better off just going to work for Google right now and learn their systems because they're going to be on the leading edge, right? The cutting edge of all technology versus a college with a college professor. Maybe he's been a professor for, 40 years, still talking about DOS or some shit like that. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So
Maybe I'm wrong, but
I would say, I tell him the same thing. And I would say he's learning some fundamentals in college. I wouldn't be surprised if he dropped out a little early. But at the same time, I said, listen, if you want to go to college, that's fine. But don't miss out on like the crazy amounts of time you're going to have and get some real world experience. So I actually did hook him up with a former co-founder of mine who has a robotic cleaning company. He builds these robots that are commercial bathroom cleaning robots, really cool stuff. And so he's in college, but he's working for this, Y Combinator startup that, my good friend runs. So he's definitely getting, both worlds on that front.
Going to get some real world expertise and knowledge. Cause I think it's
Exactly.
sad. And I talk about this. I mean, I think it's sad for a lot of people. I mean, your brother maybe is a different situation, but I think it's sad for the majority of kids out there right now that especially they don't know what they want to do. So they're wasting time. I mean, it's time value of money. Let's be honest here. I mean, you're literally wasting your time listening to a college professor that really has very little real world knowledge. Most of them have never built a business. Most of them have never been successful. Most of them, and again, the information is so outdated so fast. And then it's like you get out, and that's why 50% of kids right now, they can't even get a job out of college. And then you're going, well, wait a minute, you could have spent that last 5 years in college. You could have been working with a company, even if you didn't make a lot of money, or even if you were an intern, or even if whatever, even if you worked for near free, it would have been the same. It would actually been cheaper because you have to pay for college right now versus if you work for somebody else, even for free, at least you don't have to pay them to work for them, right? You're just working for free. And it's mind boggling to me. The greatest decision I ever made was to quit college. I mean, it changed my life.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'll be forever grateful to mentorship. So I see in you that you have been probably pretty fortunate, starting with your parents, but probably pretty fortunate to meet some great mentors. Do you have any mentors that inspired you along?
Yeah, so it's actually very funny. When you were talking about college, at the same time, when I graduated high school, literally, I remember at my graduation, I had a BlackBerry and my own phone because I had just started working for this IT firm, right? And this was when BlackBerries were still like, a thing. And so the interesting part was I split my days or my weeks between college and this job at an IT firm. The name of the IT firm was KJ Technology. And it was this boutique IT firm that helped corporations as well as really prestigious individuals like celebrities. And I was like they brought me on as an intern, but I think the CEO of the company saw like how capable I was within the first week, and he's like, "Oh, we're actually going to put you in front of clients. You know what you're doing." I was actually really proficient at like Apple computers, which they didn't have such a great team on, so I was like the Apple guy. And that CEO, his name is Adam. I still reach out to him every once in a while because the lessons I learned, in my first like real job, I still, they're so deeply embedded in my brain that they've helped me, for the last 15 years of my career. And sometimes I'll just shoot him an email and just say like, "Hey, I just was thinking about this. I appreciate the time you took to, teach me about this or walk me through that." And, just like real core fundamental stuff of, how to manage stress, how to manage clients, how to talk to people, how to interact with people, managing expectations, all those like really core elements that come into play throughout life, whether it's an IT, job or starting your own company or working now in, this big, SoftBank backed startup with 15,000 employees. It applies all the way through. So he was a great mentor of mine. Yeah.
So he really impacted you pretty deeply. I have a coaching program. It's called Wealth on the Beach Club every Wednesday morning. And I actually just got off before I got on with you. And I was talking to them and I said, I know that I'm kind of beating a dead horse about this subject right now, but I want to ingrain it in you. And I'm so glad you said that right now, because the things that he taught you are so ingrained that how many years later you're still thinking about these things. So I wanted them to know this subject that I was talking to them about this morning so deeply that even 10 years from now, when they're doing that thing that maybe they shouldn't be doing, it's going to reinforce, they're going to remember my voice. They're going to remember me telling them, you need to do it this way. And so anyways, I think it's pretty cool that you talked about that.
Yeah. And what's also, I guess different about it is it's one thing to just hear it from like a guy on a Zoom call, but like when you're like, 20 years old and like this is your first job and like your boss is coming in there and like he doesn't yell at you, he just like stands there and like logically walks you through it, and you just be like, wow, I feel like an idiot, how could I have done that? And like you just emotionally feel it like deep in your soul. That's when like you can't lose that sort of thing. It's like I like addressed like a high profile client like very casually, like and it was like, they're not your buddies, don't talk to them that way. Like and I remember like I just remember him talking to me, and he wasn't like angry or anything, but like I will never communicate with someone differently again. I always think like, all right, what's this person, what's their, what's my relationship with them, and what's like the proper way to really address them. And that's like the most important thing, is like the opening point and everything. That's just one of hundreds of things I learned there. But he was one of many mentors that I worked with. And it's really important to know that the more you learn, you typically realize how much you don't know. And it's important to just keep finding people and getting time with them, and asking them for the time, and don't be shy about it.
And I think too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you seem to me like somebody that doesn't have a major ego about learning and about getting better. Like, I don't know, for me personally, I love taking advice from people. When I get advice from them, if I think it's good advice, I'll actually implement it. I'll actually take action on that advice, not just hear it, but actually do something with it that could potentially change my life. I think ego keeps us broke. An unhealthy ego keeps us broke because we're so, maybe it's just, I'm sure women are like this too, but from a male standpoint, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we're so guarded and we're so tough all the time. It's like, somebody tells you what to do and you're like, I'm not going to take advice from that guy. I'm not going to listen to that guy. I'm a man. I know the answer. I can do it myself. I don't need anybody else. And I think, I don't know, what do you think about that, about ego?
So I definitely feel like that sometimes. When you have a couple of wins under your belt, you start to think like, oh, I think I'm getting the hang of this thing. I know it. Luckily, I have a wonderful wife who brings me down a couple notches, and she'd be like, well, if you knew everything, you wouldn't have done X, Y, Z. And then I'm like, shit, you're right. So I definitely have both. I have the ego part, which is good. You need to use that to your advantage. You definitely need to talk yourself up sometimes, sell yourself. That's really important. But don't get caught up in that, and realize when you don't know what you're talking about, and fully admit it, and just walk into a room and be like, guys, I know absolutely nothing about this topic. Teach me, and have that open mindset. But while at the same time maintaining that you want to think about advice. Don't just take everything blindly from everyone. Think about it, process it, maybe talk to someone else who might think about things differently, and form your own sort of unique mix that works for you. But definitely keep your ears and eyes open, because there's always a way to improve.
Yeah, I think it's good advice, especially kind of in this time. I mean, you could think about that area in a lot of different ways. I mean, just there's so many people out there. They're just like a bunch of sheep running around, and I think that's why they never differentiate themselves. I mean, I was a rule breaker early on, and I did, challenge the systems, and I did, challenge the thoughts of the things that I was learning. Again, I think it really is just processing it and saying, all right, is it good advice? Do I really believe in this advice? If you really believe in it, then run with it. But then I think as leaders, and you could maybe comment on this, as leaders, we do have to be rule breakers, though. We do have to push the envelope of what's possible. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, most people wouldn't have thought that, oh yeah, you're just going to put a car out on the street and let anybody drive that car. I mean, how are you going to, wonder if they steal the car, or wonder if they ruin the car? I'm sure a lot of things went through your mind as far as processing your idea. But for you to say, well, we're going to push the envelope. We're going to, get to that next level of what is possible. And we're going to see what happens. So is that kind of how you felt?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I felt like that back then. You're going to get so many naysayers on any idea you have, or any venture you want to start. And the naysayers aren't bad, because you need to take their concerns and be like, oh, that's actually a really good concern. But instead of saying, oh, that's a tough concern, I can't do it, it's how am I going to solve that? Right? It's actually very similar. I just read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And one of the things he says is in his house, the words, I can't afford that, weren't allowed. It's how can I afford that? Right? So that is the healthy way to go about it. And so you definitely need to push the envelope and break the rules, because like Steve Jobs says, the rules of the world were made up by people no smarter than yourself, and you can change them if you want to. So without being, completely, a dick about it, you got to be able to really just think outside the box and outside the parameters that like society and like conventional wisdom would put you in. And that like rearranging of how things work is where real success comes from.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And so tell me about Little Founders, man. What's this Little Founders book that you're, this cartoon book that you're writing? And by the way, just so you know, I was a cartoonist. I wanted to be a cartoonist.
Oh, really?
Before I went into financial services. I tried. I mean, I had no knowledge of how to do it. And back then, this was, gosh, a long, long time ago. And, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have YouTube. I had no contacts. I literally went to the library and got books on how to be a cartoonist. So I tried. And of course, I didn't have any mental toughness training. I had no self-improvement training, none of that. And it's just a random thing that I really wanted to do. And I failed at it miserably. But that's okay. I got back up and I tried other things and ended up doing well in some other things. But when I saw you drawing the Little Founders, or I saw you with your book series, I thought it was really, really cool. And so tell me about it.
Sure. So, I'm a big tech guy. I love, Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and all these guys. And, the idea came to me. I have 2 boys. I picked up my son one day from school, and he was really upset. He was like basically crying. And he's like, these other kids are being really mean to me. I'm not good at sports. They were making fun of me, and like, I'm ready for this, because I was that same kid, right? I was terrible at sports, uncoordinated. I only became like fit later in life. And so I said to him, I'm like, let me ask you a question. Do you know who Jeff Bezos is? So he goes, yeah. I said, do you think he's the richest guy at the time? I think he was the richest, whatever. I'm like, do you think Jeff Bezos is good at sports? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. Do you know who Elon Musk is? Yeah. Do you think he's good at sports? No. Steve Jobs? And so I realized, kids might know these people in theory, but they don't really know their stories and their entrepreneurial journeys in a way that they can really understand it. So even though some people have done kids version biographies of them, no one's really retold their stories in a way that kids will get. So my first book that I put out was called Little Steve. And Little Steve is about Steve Jobs. And it talks about how he, was an outcast and thought differently. And saw the computers in school and how they were like old and clunky, and how he learned from his dad that, details matter, and, the little details are what make everything unique and special. And so he designed a computer, and he got his friends to help him, and he built them in his garage. And then his friends kicked him out of the computer club, and then he went and made his own stuff. He didn't let him bring him down, and then his friends wanted him back. So it's basically the whole Steve Jobs biography, but in a kid's story. And the next one coming up is going to be Little Elon, which is about the big go-kart race and how all the bullies in town use big smelly gas engines, and he decides to use the batteries from his toys to make a go-kart that can go faster than everyone else's. And so we're going to do a whole series of legendary entrepreneurs retold for kids. And I'm excited to see where it goes. But I was always, besides for just wanting to get that message out there, I've always been really fascinated by the idea of content sales. So, I use Amazon KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. When someone buys a book, Amazon prints and ships it. So you literally make something once and it just makes money forever. That sounds pretty good to me. So, we'll see where it goes.
Well, I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's wonderful. And I use Amazon as well. I just had a new book come out a few months ago called Wealth on the Beach. And so we're really excited about that. 11 laws of getting financial freedom. And so, no, I love that concept. And I am, I'm going to make sure I get out there and get the little Stevie. Is it Little Stevie, right? Or Little Steve?
Little Steve, whatever.
Little Steve,
whatever
yeah.
works.
Little
Yeah,
Steve, I'm going to check that out, and I'm going to get that today, and I'll make sure I put a review on your Amazon, because that's very important. And if anybody's listening and you buy a book on Amazon, always go leave a review for the author, because it's really powerful. I mean, good and bad, right? I mean, if you didn't like the book,
yeah.
put you didn't like it. If you liked it. Tell them you like it, and what you like about it. But I think that's very inspiring what you're doing. And so who's after Elon? Because Elon will be good. You have who's the next one? Do you know?
Elon's good. We have another one. I'm thinking possibly Oprah. I think that's a good
Okay,
one.
that's a good one.
But definitely, we'll get, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos eventually. We'll get all of them. But I think we did two, tech founders. Maybe someone in the entertainment world would be a good thing as well, and round out the series a little more. But we'll see how everything plays out.
Good stuff. Well, we're going to make sure we go get those books and talk you up, man. So Zoli,
Awesome.
and as we kind of start winding down here, first of all, this is great content. This is great information, so valuable, especially from a young man like you, man, that just has so much vibrant energy and passion for wanting to do great things. And, I know people are going to reach out to you, and they're going to want to get to know you, and they're going to, is there anything, because there's a lot of young entrepreneurs right now that are listening or watching, because this will be on YouTube, and this will be on iTunes and Spotify. And so what final thoughts, maybe just a thought of something that can inspire young entrepreneurs out there to go do the things that they're supposed to go do, so that they can get that life that they've always dreamt of? Any parting thoughts for those people?
Yeah, I tell this all the time to certain people, and I see that sometimes I'll find someone that's so talented, and I like my entrepreneurial instinct kicks in, and I'll just be like, why don't you go build a brand? Why don't you go do this? Why don't you go do that? You could be so successful. People would buy this. You just make this kind of video and this TikTok and this and like, you can talk till you're blue in the face to certain people, and like they'll just be like, I don't want that. I'd rather just work for someone. And surprisingly, and this is so shocking to like anyone who's an entrepreneur, that's like most people. They don't want that. So if you're already considering yourself an entrepreneur and you're in that mindset that I'm going to go create it and I'm going to go get it, just know you already are like miles ahead of 90% of the world. It might not feel like it. And certainly every day is going to be different, right? You're going to have days that are amazing. You're on top of the world. There are going to be days you feel like, why am I doing this? This is the worst. And everyone gets those. Everyone. Just keep on the path. The line to success doesn't look like this. It looks like this. Just keep at it, keep trying, because really all it takes is, one prospect to come through, one deal to come through, an email from a random dude who turns out to be the executive producer of Shark Tank, for everything to completely change. So keep your eyes and ears open, take every opportunity, explore everything. And you never know which one's going to hit, and is going to be that, that fuel to take your success and your business to the next level.
Well said. And I believe all of that. It makes so much sense. I've been telling people for years that you're one relationship, you're one recruit, you're one person away from an explosion. And in this last venture of yours, it was that producer. He was that one guy that was, just created a lot of abundance for you. And so I love talking with successful people. And I think that what's cool about our podcast, and I get this comment all the time, is that they love Wealth on the Beach podcast, because they get to hear the real stories from people. They get to hear, it's kind of like you're writing the story of all these really famous people. Well, I don't have, Steve Jobs or Elon Musk on, but
right.
I find, one day. But I find, though, what's cool about it is that I'm meeting, just like you would look at you and you would go, if somebody just saw you randomly on the street, they wouldn't know that you're a very successful entrepreneur, right? You've made millions of dollars, and you have a pretty good life and you've done some really awesome things. And of course, this is just the beginning for you. I'm sure you got far bigger ambitions. But what's cool is to hear your story now, right now, kind of like when you're in the midst of it, not when you made, $47 billion, but right in the beginning, to say, this is the beginning of something great. And to be able to talk about those experiences and to hear your mindset and to really understand where that separation is. Because I hope people that are listening or watching, I hope you're seeing the separation. This is the difference. Yeah. You're different. You're not like everybody else. You're willing to break the rules. You're willing to quit college. You're willing to take a risk. You're willing to go on national TV and potentially look like a dork or potentially get shot down or potentially, right? That shit's risky, right? It's risky to your ego. It's risky to your brand. It's risky to, but you're willing to take those chances. And because you took chances, that's why you're successful today. That's why you've done what most people will never do, is because you're willing to do what other people aren't willing to go do. And so that's the difference maker for you. And so I'm impressed. I'm inspired. Congratulations to all the great things that are happening to you. Last thing is, tell us how we can get a hold of you on Instagram, TikTok, wherever, your website, wherever you want us to,
Sure. Yeah. Probably Instagram's the best thing, at Zoli Honig, ZOLIHONIG, just my name. TikTok's pretty fun for me. That's at Zoltronic, ZOL-tronic. That's been a great platform. And definitely start putting stuff out on TikTok. People don't do that enough. Like, things blow up like crazy on there. That's an untapped opportunity for so many people. That's another just random. You guys should be on TikTok.
Well, we'll all get on TikTok. I've been telling people to get on TikTok too. So yes, every day I post something on TikTok. So yeah, we're moving in that direction a little bit better now as well. So, but thank you so much again, Zoli. Great meeting you. And for everybody else, make sure that you continue to dream bigger. As always, get after it, man, and do it now. So just have that mindset. Do it now. Get it done. Make it happen. God bless all of you. See you at the top.